I can now. Hi, Ben. Welcome to this
Hey,
lecture.
sorry about
It's okay. I see you jump in, jump out with the connection. I hope we can fix it for later, because I think it will be tricky otherwise to understand each other. But let's see.
right.
Unless
Hopefully this will work.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Fine. Perfect. So welcome, and let's start with the most typical of the questions. Where are you from? I already know that, but I'll let you say that.
Well, first of all, thanks for doing this. It's great to meet you. I'm really excited that
Oh, my
we're
pleasure.
having this
My
conversation.
pleasure. Thanks.
So my name's Ben Roidl-Ward. I'm a bassoonist based in Chicago. I'm currently in Vancouver, BC.
Okay. That's lovely. That's where you work, right?
Pardon?
That's where you work.
I work in Chicago.
Okay.
And that's where I live. I've been up here for about 6 weeks now.
Lovely. Lovely. And where did you study?
Well, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, which is
Okay.
on the west coast of the U.S., and I studied with Francine Peterson there for 7
Okay.
years. She was my first teacher, and she was really the reason that I wanted to pursue music. And then I studied at Oberlin Conservatory with George Sakakini for my undergrad. I did my master's at Rice with Ben Kamens, and I'm just now finishing up my doctorate at Northwestern in Chicago, where I studied with David McGill.
That's lovely to hear. And I actually been to Chicago. It was lovely. I love the city.
It's an amazing
and the
city.
deep dish
It's a
pizza.
really great place.
I know. If I call the embassy of Italy, they can kick me. But I actually like the deep dish pizza.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
It's like a different food group. It's not the same as
Yes,
what you
exactly. Yeah. I mean, living abroad, I learned to like everything and to accept every difference in culture. That's what makes the world a special place, you know. So
Absolutely.
let's dig deeper now into our instrument. What made you decide to play the bassoon?
You know, ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a percussionist. You know, I always wanted to
Wow.
play the drums. And for us, it was, around 5th grade when you were, 11 years old or so that you got to pick your instrument for the band. And it turns out
Right.
that every other boy in my class also wanted to play the drums, right?
Okay.
And so there were like 10 of us. And at that point, I thought, maybe I want to do something that not everyone else is doing. And my dad had taken me to this concert where I heard the bassoon, and I just fell in love with the sound. I was like, I really want to be able to make that sound. And I also loved the fact that, all my other friends who also wanted to be drummers, they didn't even know what the instrument was. So that was something
You
that
could play it cool, like, I know what it is and you don't. You could say
Right,
everything
exactly.
you could.
Yeah, exactly.
That's lovely. And so you also, Giovanni, the other finalist I interviewed before, started bassoon by chance. And I find it lovely that you started something and then you liked it after, like without planning it too much in advance. Sometimes this gives a little life lesson, take advantage of the occasions you find. That's lovely. And
Right.
yeah, great. And later on,
Parents were shocked. They never would have guessed that that was something that I would pick of my own accord. So it really, yeah. I think everyone with the bassoon has their own special story, because it's not something that most kids even know about.
Yeah, it's not like people, kids at 4 years old. I want to play that strange tube. They will never. I mean, there are people, but it's few.
Yeah. Right.
And later on, when you then continued studying and so on, who actually inspired you to get through, all the difficulties of the first years, and who pushed you to be a better player, better bassoonist by inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, each of my teachers and each stage of my studies was a huge inspiration for me, and motivated me to keep going, and kept pointing out things that I needed to keep improving. And that was inspiring to me to always push like that.
That's
I
nice to hear.
Yeah, I play a lot of contemporary music as well, and there are a couple of bassoonists who kind of opened my eyes to that world, especially when I was at Oberlin. I would say Dana Jessen, Catherine Young, Rebecca Heller, Monica Ellis. People like were really opened my eyes to a whole different world of repertoire that I didn't realize existed, and that was really a life-changing thing for me as well.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That's what makes this job we do a special one. Mm-hmm. Great. So let's now dig even deeper in the purpose of this live stream. And first of all, congratulations for being one of the finalists of the Gillet-Fox competition of this year. And let's start from before the competition. Like, why did you enter it?
Yeah, ever since I was a young bassoonist and I first learned about IDRS in this competition, I thought I would love to do this someday. I would love to, be a finalist for this competition and maybe even win it. And when I was at Oberlin, I applied for the Young Artist competition 2013. And I was a finalist that year when it was at University of Redlands in California. And so that, that gave me a taste. I've always loved doing competitions. I find it to be something that's really challenging and inspiring for me. I heard Giovanni talking about that earlier as well. I totally agree with that.
Yes.
And so, this year I was really hoping to be able to do the Gillet-Fox. And when the repertoire came out, I mean, the Ciranda, the Villalobos is one of my favorite pieces of all time. And so, I have to do it this year. And I didn't know the Bertolli Sonata, but it was nice to have something that I knew and loved, and then a new challenge as well, something that I didn't know before.
I think that's the purpose of the programs of the competition, because every you find some common repertoire pieces, and you find some rarities. It's also something to make less known piece stand out in and be practiced by hundreds of people, more or less, and this gives them, for example, the challenge to practice them and then to like it and to play it afterwards. It's an occasion to learn a piece, otherwise you probably would never learn.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's cool. And going on, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the IDRS Gillet-Fox competition?
Sure. Yeah, I started pretty early. My goal was to get my recording done before the end of 2019 because I had a lot of things to prepare for in the spring. And so I started pretty early learning the repertoire and did my recordings in December. And, it was kind of surreal to get the notification that I was a finalist, kind of in the early of this quarantine, because so many things had just evaporated. It seemed like, things had disappeared, and it was a really, wonderful piece of news to have this, this news come.
Yeah, it's sparkle of light in the darkness.
Yes, exactly. It's really sad that we won't be able to have the finals. But I'm really grateful that we're still being invited to come and play next year, and doing things like this also is really nice. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm grateful too. I mean, I think despite all the tech of the organizational things that we cannot be in person this year, I find it so nice that we now have the technology to do it otherwise. And
absolutely.
To still, I mean, of course, in person it's something else, of course, but still it's something, out of some tragedy situation, we can take out some good and, make it, and because we do it in this time, it will mean even more than just doing one of the many conferences and talks and live streams. And this is a special one, and I'm glad we are part of it.
Yeah. I deeply appreciate your optimism. I think that's an important point to make.
I think so. I mean, I think it helps to see things with a little bit of optimism.
Yeah.
I think it helps to get through these difficult times. I mean, for Italy it was earlier, maybe. Now this optimism now is justified because the situation is going better. In the States, I see every day the news, and it's not going better, of course. But
Yeah.
I think it. I mean, let's see. And when we lose hope, when we lose hope, then it doesn't make sense anymore. So let's not lose it.
Right.
We are just now ready for the next question, ready by topic. And how have you been affected by COVID-19, apart from not being able to take part in the final of this competition?
I mean, well, all of my performances in the spring have been canceled or postponed, which, it's a financial struggle for sure.
Yeah.
But also it's led me to really see how much having live performances and having a new thing to prepare for every week, how much that motivates me,
Yeah.
how much that keeps me going, and that's really kind of the way that I measure time too, is in these performances, and it's been really strange for me to have those canceled. I'm really grateful. I do a lot of teaching, and it's been possible to do a lot of that online.
Wow, that's lovely. Yeah.
Which is it's good to keep the regularity and be in touch with my students, and also to still have income from that has been really important for me.
Yes, to get through this period. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm hoping that soon it will be possible to perform live again, because that's why we do this. It's not to do live streams. It's as much as these online performances are necessary and how much I appreciate them, it's never going to be the same as being in a room with people.
You miss the contact with the audience, of course. I mean, we are like actors, we react live to what the audience tell us by expression, by emotion, and we live for that applause, apart from competitions, from grades, from exams, we go for that standing ovation, for that person in the audience, that old lady that comes and says, you made me forget all my problems in this hour. And this cannot happen fully live online, of course.
Right.
But it's better than nothing. That's the point from before,
Oh yeah. And like you said, I'm so grateful for at a time now where it's still possible to have communication with people all over the world and to make music together. And that's been another thing that's been keeping me going.
Yeah.
For sure, is being able to do virtual collaborations and see what other people are up to. It's very inspiring for me. So I am very grateful.
Good. And this brings us, actually, we can say you already kind of answered that. And what were your goals during these strange times? I mean, what are your goals during this strange time?
Yeah, I mean, goals are tough. There are days where I feel really motivated, and there are days where it's like, what's the point? But I'm working on my dissertation to finish my doctorate at Northwestern, and I've been working on that. At the beginning of the pandemic, I made a series of videos on YouTube where I was showing a different multiphonic every day and showing examples of different pieces. So that was a really nice daily motivation for me. I also learned the barrio sequenza finally, which is something that I've wanted to do, for years and years and years. And it was like a friend of mine asked me to be a part of this live stream of all of the sequenzas in a row, and I was like, this is the time. If ever there was a time, this is
I got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a challenge. You now had the time to do it, because otherwise it's difficult,
Yeah.
To take time, focus weeks on a piece.
Right. Yeah.
That's nice. And what about your future plans instead? Like thinking a bit more in advance. Do you already have some plans, or?
Yeah, it's hard to make plans right now. I mean, because as you mentioned, the state of things in the U.S. is very uncertain. right now, and so I'm hopeful that some of my concerts that have been postponed will be able to happen soon, and that concerts will be able to happen in general. I'm going to be recording an album over the course of the next year, which I'm really excited for. So that's going to be something that is a project that goes long term for me, of six pieces written within the last 10 years, and I'm really excited about that. And it's nice that that's also something that it becomes more complicated with the pandemic, but it's something that I know for sure I can make happen during that time, because it doesn't require the same kind of
Will you record alone, or is it like chamber music?
So there are 3 solo pieces and 3 chamber pieces that will be on there.
Wow.
Yeah, all ensembles, duos and trios. So it will all be possible.
That's great.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, you will probably have a lot of time to listen to the post production. This normally takes huge time and concentration.
Right. Yeah. So,
probably a good time to make a CD. Okay, very nice. I think we finished our questions, our, let's say, obligatory questions, and now we have some little time for question and answer from our audience. And 10 minutes more or less, and then the live stream will disconnect automatically, because it's 1 hour only in Instagram, unfortunately.
Got it.
Let's see, questions now or never again. Great. Before, there were a lot of technical questions, like which bassoon do you play, which cane do you use? Maybe we can anticipate and just say, which bassoon do you play?
Yeah, I play on Heckel bassoon. It's number 1160, and I got that when I was at Oberlin, and it's a really wonderful instrument. I'm really love it, and I'm very grateful to get to play.
Great. So we have some questions. So Ben, what is your dissertation topic? Yeah, I'm curious.
Oh yeah. I'm writing about 2 solo bassoon pieces, one by Lisa Lim, who's an Australian composer, and one by Pierluigi Bellone, who's an Italian composer. And I'm writing about the ways that these 2 composers approach writing multiphonics for the bassoon, which are really a central material for their compositions. And I'm especially interested in the way that both of these composers notate the multiphonics, so how they look on the page and what are their strategies for writing them down, because I think both of those pieces are really successful in that, but in different ways. So I'm curious to explore that.
That's very interesting, and also a topic that not everybody is talking about. So it's interesting to focus on that. So we have some more questions here. Any commissions on the recording?
Yeah, 4 of the 6 pieces are new pieces that were written for me, or are still being written for me. So I'm really excited about that.
That's great. And exercise it for good tone, please.
Oh, that's a good question. I think that so much of the time, good tone is found, at the intersection of all the things that we're going for in terms of our intonation, in terms of our response, in our reed making, and in the way that we practice. But one thing that I really distinctly remember is that when I was at Oberlin, my teacher, George Sakakini, had me playing long tones in his studio, which is this big room. And he told me to visualize, my sound as, something that I could see, and visualize pushing it into each of the corners of the room, in front of me, behind me, above me, below me, and really think about the relationship of my sound to the space and how the space is resonating. And my first teacher, Francine, always used to say to remember that, the room is a part of your instrument, right? There's a resonance in the room that you are affecting and that you're playing into. And, when I'm thinking about that, when I'm thinking about really, making my sound fill the space, thinking about making the space resonate, that's really helpful for me in terms of projecting and having a full tone.
That's a great advice, great piece of advice. And even because every time you will play, it will be in a room, in a hall, in a whatever you can call it, but it's mostly four walls or circular, and
Right.
the audience will be far away from you, and they will hear what resonates in the hall. They will not hear directly from your instrument.
Right.
I really like this thing. The room is part of your instrument. This is my
That
next
was a really
tattoo here.
profound.
Room is part of your instrument. Next tattoo. So, any other questions? Or we still have some 5 minutes. So, dig in. Cool.
Yeah. Well, I will just say about the thing with the rooms, you know, this is something that we've all been realizing in the past couple months too, that, you know, so many of us are spending so much more time playing in our bedrooms or in our basements or wherever. And that's really taught me how much of an effect the room has on the quality of sound, you know, and it's hard not being able to play in big spaces, you know, to really be able to tell if what I'm doing is working. You know, I'm so used to being able to play in halls or in smaller venues or even rehearsal halls, you know, that are large rooms. It's really a challenge if the only place that you're able to play is a really small room.
Yeah. I mean, one should play by imagination. Like, one should imagine that they are in a bigger room and that they have to be heard like 10,000 rows, and the old lady in the last row still has to hear all the notes, you know. So, next question: how has working on new music informed your work on old music? That's a nice question. How has it affected?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think I try and pursue the same goals when I'm playing new music as when I'm playing old music, you know, in terms of technical precision, in terms of, you know, execution, in terms of response and all of these things. And I don't really think of them as being separate entities.
Yeah.
That being said, I will say that, you know, a lot of my work with new music has just taught me a lot more about the instrument itself. You know, if I'm practicing microtonal scales, or if I'm practicing bending, you know, in and out of a multiphonic from a single pitch, there's a level of embouchure control or a level of finger control that's necessary there, that leads me to practice or look, you know, at least in a different way than I would think about it.
Yes.
If I'm playing excerpts or if I'm playing, you know, a piece from the classical era. And so I think that, you know, both playing, you know, old music and the approaches that I've learned from there have been definitely helpful for me in approaching these new pieces.
Absolutely,
and also, you know, there are these demands on my technique that new music places that help with old. You know, I'm not so scared of the high E at the end of the second movement of the Saint-Saëns Sonata
anymore.
as I was.
Not anymore.
You know, high E's are not necessarily a rarity in newer music. I mean, let's be clear, I'm still scared of it. It's still terrifying, but it's, you know, it's like I have a chance now. I have more of an idea how to approach it.
Yeah. Now the roof is higher now. F sharp,
right.
G. What's the maximum you've met in other music?
I played a high A flat in a piece. That was the highest that I've ever had to perform.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was using a high note vocal and found a special fingering for it. And you know, I know there are people who have gone above and beyond that, and I have the utmost respect for them, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Yes, of course. Great. So next question: how do you break your practice up?
That's a good question. It's really important for me to warm up sometime in the start of the day. I have to make sure that I play the bassoon before noon.
Okay.
And really get
question in the question. Did you warm up today?
Not yet. I mean, it's
morning.
Now, so.
It's morning to you in Chicago, right? It's like 10 in.
Yeah. Well, I'm in.
No.
I'm in Vancouver right now. So.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll warm up right after this. But
I was joking, man.
No, but it's important. Yeah. Yeah. So I try and make sure I do a warm up sometime in the morning, and then I like to do it in hour chunks. I find that if I do more than an hour, I start to lose my mind and I stop being productive. And so I really try and plan out. You know, I try and look far in advance when there are things far in advance. what I need to prepare, and then, what is it that needs to happen right now, and balance a couple of hour chunks out in that way.
That's a clever organization. Yeah. I'm more like of a procrastination guy.
Yeah.
9 hours a day the week before the competition, and nothing before and nothing after.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little guilty of that too. I can't say I'm always perfect.
No, I'm kidding. I'm halfway. Okay. Next question, and I think we have time for, let's do quick. Oh no, 30 seconds left. I'm sorry, we have no time more for questions. So Ben, thank you so much for participating in this live stream. I'm very happy that I also could participate as a host with my terrible English. Pardon me, but I'm happy we made it despite technical difficulties, distance, jet lag, difference in time, and see you.